Welcome to the second hour of Hakof Hamea radio show. We're here with our guest, Stephen Williams. Hi, Stephen.
Back, everybody.
So, I think what I'm curious about it is about your movie. I mean, how many years are already going through the world and just picking up people who's doing urine therapy and interview them?
Started back, I guess I first started filming was when I went to the Fifth World Conference in Mexico. That was when I started the beginning point.
Yeah.
I did a lot of research before then, so I invested a good 6 months before then just, buying all the books online and trying to find all the therapists that existed. Find all these people. It's thus also I've got a full-time job, so it's very tough to, do a film and work a full-time job, but unfortunately I need a full-time job to pay for the film because
sure.
You have one or another, especially when you fly around the world, because that gets quite expensive after a while. So, it's been about 3 years now, and I hope to finish the film by November, just in time for the World Conference, because I need to get this monkey off my back, because I've got thousands and thousands of hours of footage that I'm constantly editing and sifting through, and I'm still waiting for parts to come through. There's still people that I'm waiting for, and it's a never-ending journey of producing all the information, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, to say the least, because I want a film that's enjoyable for everybody, and full of information.
Nice. Great. So through your investigations and meeting special people, what's the best story you have from this?
Testimonials are really incredible. When you can actually physically see a person talking about their life, and one particular person is here in Australia. Her name's Margaret, and she's got a huge amount of compound illnesses. She's diabetic. She's got diabetic. She's had bleeding retinas. She's had ulcers on her legs so big that the doctor amputated her legs. She has a colostomy bag on her. So she, basically she's not well. She discovered urine therapy a little while back. I think it's been about 8 months to a year now. And I've slowly been watching her progressing through this therapy, and obviously with so many diseases, it's going to take a while. So, I went over and visited her and filmed her, and, she bathes in urine, she soaks her feet in urine, she stores her urine, she does everything, from anything to everything. It was only probably about 3 months ago she rang me and said, "Hey, guess what?" And I was like, "What's going on? How are you going? Are you healthy yet?" She goes, "The colostomy bag's gone." Now, she was told she was going to have that for the rest of her life, because of the illnesses. So that was her recent thing. And I was like, good on you, but keep drinking. I want to try and get her on distilled water, because I wanted to try and get off the diabetes. I must say, all her ulcers on her legs, and she's got photos of the ulcers she showed me, which I'm incorporating in the film. The doctors basically said the ulcers are so big and so deep, and one was basically the size of her calf. It was huge. They wanted to amputate her basically at her knee, and she knew basically when that happens, they start at the knee, then it becomes the thigh, and then it becomes something else, and before you know it, you're gone. There's nothing left. She started soaking her feet in urine in a bucket. She just sit at a computer and type away and soak. All those welts and everything disappeared. Her legs look like she's a 20-year-old now. I've never seen such great than an older woman. And I was like, she just proved the point that, you don't necessarily need to go to hospital and get things amputated. There is a really good video on YouTube about that toe that was gangrene. That pushed.
I saw that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I asked if I could have some rights to the footage, but they won't let me have it because they're writing a book about it. And that's fair enough. That's their journey. And I hopefully I want to see her, she's got one of the legs in a constant cast because she's got, she has constant tingling and numbness of her arms and her legs and severity of pain throughout. So she's trying to control that. So, you're talking one of the extremes here who's got so many different types of illnesses, and that could stem from one illness into another and so on. So she's now slowly doing the reverse, and it's slowly, and it's a long process, and she was drinking all her urine all day, the whole day, and that had little effect, and then she's done different amounts and 1 glass in the morning and so on. There is a theory with homeopathy that the bigger the disease, the less amount of urine. So by urine in water and diluting it, mixing it and shaking it and then diluting it down again and again has a far greater effect on a bigger disease than volume. Because sometimes the theory behind that is drinking too much, you're oversensitizing the body. It's too much information, it can't handle it. So you're overdosing. And it's no different to overdosing on a drug in that instance. So that's a quite interesting theory. So, sometimes that less is more theory can be quite workable as well. So, so she's experimenting with all those different methods as well. So that was quite interesting to actually see somebody in the process of doing that. I went over to America. I caught up with Paul Kangas. He just got his doctorate, and he's hilarious. We were driving down over the Golden Gate Bridge, and he's like, "Well, I got to go and pee," so he just filled up a cup. And part of the film is this journey itself. I'm meeting all these amazing people along the way and getting myself into certain situations that I thought I would never get into. And I'm sitting in the car filming him urinate into this bottle. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can do this. I can handle this. I'm looking in the camera viewfinder, so I'm not actually looking at him, so it desensitizes you a little bit. But, about 30 seconds in of filming a guy urinating, I can start to smell it. All the windows are closed in the car, so I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing in this situation? But, you get through it, and there's been many encounters that I've gone in and filmed people who have, got aged urine, for instance, and the potency, the smell of it, so strong. And I'm like locked in a room doing an interview, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die in here. The ammonia, like when I was in India at the cow urine therapy clinic, they basically took me to the farm where we watched them collect the urine from the cows, which was quite entertaining to say the least, because what they do is you sit and watch and wait for the cows to urinate, and the tail on the back of the cow would lift up just a fraction, just to indicate it was time to go. So they'd run up to the cow with a number 2 and number 1. So I was like, I'm never going to film these cows urinating. They're all doing number 2s instead of number 1. But eventually we get cows to urinate, and they collect urine and they take it back to their boiling room. And the boiling room it's about 10 giant vats or urns full of urine boiling away. Now this is in a basement, mind you. So I walked downstairs. My eyes were stinging. I was just crying. The smell was so horrendous. And the guy that works there, he's just walking around and talking. Oh, yeah, look, we do this and we do that. I could barely breathe. I was just taking these minute little breaths, and I thought, I am going to really not going to get any oxygen down here. I'm not going to survive this one. And I keep saying to myself, how do I get myself into these situations? But, all for the love of the film. So, they're probably the worst parts of that I've had to experience. And then there's the flip side where you get to meet amazing people that have just inspire you with how they speak and their knowledge and power and things like that. So, I met Cole van der Koen, who wrote The Golden Fountain. I went and visited him in Holland and spent, some time there, and he showed me through one of the largest collections of urine therapy books I've ever seen in my life. He's got a whole library devoted to them in all different languages. His personal story on urine therapy was once when he was in India, he stubbed his toe and it was infected, and he used urine therapy to clean that up. And thus he learned about urine therapy and wrote a book, and that book became one of the most famous books in Europe, and it was written in a multitude of languages. And he was, interviewed on a lot of TV shows and so forth, and they basically took the fun out of him, and, they weren't treating it seriously, and it had a real negative effect, and eventually he just sort of stopped doing the interviews because, basically they weren't taking him seriously, and they were just taking him as a big joke, the guy that drinks his urine, sort of thing. So I think most of us come across, urine therapy accidentally. We either become our own advocate or therapist within ourselves from learning from ourselves, or filmmakers or authors or radio people like yourself. It's a wonderful thing. It creates careers, just from experimenting and learning about the therapy in itself. I mean, the history of urine has come and gone throughout life. It was popular back in the 1980s in India, and now I think a lot of Indians don't really know about it. It's sort of gone back into sort of forgotten about time. I mean, Egyptians used it. There's the Ibis papyrus, which is housed in Germany, which is the only document with aspects of urine therapy written on it that still exists. So that's quite a good find. I went to go to Germany to see if I could film the Ibis papyrus, but unfortunately the college that has it was using the papyruses on an exhibition, so they were preparing all of the remaining parts, so I couldn't get in there and film it. So I was really quite disappointed about that, because I really wanted to see some form of first documentation of that. And everybody knows about the Shivimbu Kappa, which is also the Dharma Tantra, which is all the verses of urine therapy, but the actual document's gone now. That's lost. Whether it disappeared or turned into dust, we don't know. But at least that is still existing. So, these sort of things intrigue me, and I think, well, I'll just fly over there. So, I mean, in my latest research, pretty much, and I don't know whether I'll get time because I'm pretty limited now to finish the film, but the clinical studies that were done overseas about the camel's urine was really getting me fascinated now, and that was the studies were done at the University of Sudan, where they've done all the testings and pretty much finding that a female camel has really good effects, and like the female camel and the cow urine, both of these animals are very resistant to disease. They've got this great resistance to heat and disease. So therefore their urine is really quite good for everybody, because they don't have the problems that our body can possibly have sometimes. And this is the theory of drinking cow urine and all that, because they believe that the cow is getting fed organically food, it's purely vegetarian, and therefore it has a cleaner diet, whereas the human diet, we eat unhealthy food, or, we don't have a good lifestyle. There's elements of stress and environmental elements that are interfering with this, and we're not as, robust to these things. So therefore, that's their belief system, that's why it works so well. But, I'm still from the belief that, yours is your own design. It's your perfect medicine designed for you, provided, you can help it along by calming yourself and not being so stressed and, changing your diet and doing all those wonderful things that, we should all be doing anyway. So the only thing we can't escape is environmental poisoning, which is what seems to be happening in the world at the moment with, genetically modified foods and, different substances in food that we don't know even exist. But, the truth is be kind to your body and just go vegetarian or organic. There's no hard and fast rules. We all get caught up in trying to be fanatical a little bit about urine therapy. Oh, you have to go vegetarian or you have to do this and you have to stop this. It's not necessary if you just listen to your body. There are people that are smoking and still doing urine therapy and are having the same effects. It's that fear factor. If you enjoy eating meat or enjoy eating, having a few luxuries of life and you're getting enjoyment out of that, when you do your urine therapy, it's not going to have a negative effect. But if you're not enjoying that and then you're doing urine therapy, then it's, you're going to have problems. So, it's about sending that positive energy throughout yourself. I'm not vegetarian. I don't think I ever will be. I travel too much. It's very hard for me to have a healthy, constant raw food diet if I'm always traveling and flying on planes, because you're never going to get raw food on a plane. However, you can drink your own urine on a plane, which is always good. But, there's elements within that. I don't stress out about it. I don't take negative energy in about it. I enjoy what I eat when I eat it. I thank the food when I eat it, and that changes. And, if you've read that book with the Japanese doctor about the water crystals, how water can change just through sending those energies. Thus, sending those energies in anything that contains water, which is food as well, and your urine, and sending those same vibrations, you can have that power go within you as well. So, I've learned not to get hung up too much about those elements of things, because a lot of people can be very fanatical about things, and when you get into that aspect, then you are destroying things within your own soul as well. We tend to get too carried away sometimes, and it's the golden rule of everything in moderation, and that's life in general. So try and be everything in moderation, and you can't really go too wrong.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, I actually want to delve into although you don't like the concept of science, but let's talk about the new science or the natural side of science of urine therapy. What are the things you've discovered about the actual? How does it really work?
Well, because there's no real scientific evidence, there's been theories, but they've never really dove deep inside of it. But from the people I've spoken to, and Dr. he studied biofeedback and things like that. So even though it's in yourself, is full of those wonderful things that when you redigest, your body reuses it. But it's the information. It's what you're putting back in your body. It sends that information back into your body and corrects the imbalance. The scientific aspect of that is biofeedback. So poisons kill poisons. And this is proven, like, for instance, if you get bitten by a snake, the doctor, what do they give you? They give you, a venom of the snake, which is, been mixed in a lab and so forth. But it was the snake's venom. So it's the poison which has been turned off. Your body goes in, reacts, and thus cures itself. So poisons kill poisons. So urine therapy has the same principle. It's sending that information back into your body and correcting that imbalance.
Yeah, there's also this concept of vibration called in physics it's called interference, which it's when you take two waves and point them at each other, it will do something called destructive interference, meaning the two waves that ripple and they collide with each other, they flat out. I believe it's the same thing. It's the same effect. It's the information you're talking about and the waves and frequencies. When you put out the same frequency of a disease, let's say, it will do this destructive interference phenomenon.
Yeah, what it's turning off those switches that, if something's running rampant in your body and going the wrong way, like, a tumor is growing out of control because it hasn't figured out that off switch and your body's not telling it to turn it off. Well, urine is a living thing. It's alive. And thus, this is why I say your own energy within that as well, because that also adds to vibration, which then send that wave even stronger to turn it off and send those messages to say, you know what, you're not meant to grow here, you're not meant to expand, you're meant to decrease. And that's been proven in a lot of clinical studies about urine therapy. It's shrinking the tumors, so it's turning that off switch. Vibration, your own vibration as well, you can add into it as well. It's amplifying all that aspect. So, to turn those things off, you need to help your body. I was taught in India to do pranama, which is an ancient breathing technique, and go into a meditative state, which what happens when you meditate, you change your vibration. You go into a different world. So that also will help that process. So definitely energy is about it, and thus, this is the problem with science. Anything they can't see, they can't measure, they don't classify it. So scientific evidence will never prove about vibrations because they can't see it. They only test things they can see. So feelings and emotions and all those things have to be felt. We can make ourselves sick because we feel sick or we think of things. It's our energy changing that. So therefore we internally have that power to control a vibrational aspect of ourselves, whether, people can read your aura or so on, which there are certain cameras that, claim to do all that. So, that's a vibration aspect of it too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, there is also something I've discovered lately about, water, that there is a condition in medicine called UCD, which is unintentional chronic dehydration. And, basically, most of the time, it's been proven that when you think you're hungry, you're actually thirsty. And all those sicknesses are very dehydrated. The actual cells are dehydrated, and all you have to do is hydrate them, and then they'll become alive. And all the drug companies let's say all the painkillers are based on antihistamines. And now a histamine is a brain chemical.
Oh yeah.
That actually does something quite amazing, which is in charge of the hydration and the drought in your body. And when you're in pain and you take antihistamines, you just lie to your body, and which actually makes it much worse. It's like you feel better, but you're not. That blocks the pain in a very unhealthy way, because you're not supposed to suppress the pain. You're supposed to nurture it and hydrate the actual cells, and not suppress, not put antihistamines in your body.
Absolutely. And even in clinical research, they've done a lot of testings, and most illnesses are caused by malnutrition or nutrition or poor diet, stress, lifestyle, environmental issues, and poisonings as well. So a lot of diseases can be cured just from hydration. And this is, there's these people going, well, you're doing urine therapy. All you're doing is hydrating yourself. So maybe it's not the urine that's working. It's maybe the fact that you're actually drinking, and hydrating yourself. And yes, they go hand in hand though. I mean, obviously hydrating yourself is very important because you're killing a lot of things, but nutrition is very important because you can be humongous in size and fat and still be starving inside because you're not eating proper food. If you're just living off hamburgers and MSG type style foods and foods that have absolutely no nutritional value, you are starving. Your body is still starving. It might be overweight and people go, oh, they're well fed, but the body is still starving. And this proves on these people that are overweight because what do? They want to eat more because their body's telling them, I need nutrients. I need vitamins. I need minerals. But what do? They eat KFC or McDonald's and they don't get any of that in there, very little, so their body still craves more, but they're eating more of the wrong foods, therefore starving themselves at the same time. So, nutritional value is really important, and especially when doing urine therapy, I mean, the problematic issue now is you're not getting the nutrients out of food anymore because they're so manipulated, and the only way to do that is through basically organic food. And this has been proven, and I love scientific medicine. They prove that organic carrot and a normal carrot has no nutritional difference. And that's science. But what they fail to tell you in the testings is the pesticide aspect of it. So that carrot that's grown in the local garden is being sprayed by pesticides, which are proven to cause cancers. Yet the organic one is pesticide free. Yes, they both have exactly the same nutritional value, but there's one element different, and that's the poisons we're putting in there. And unfortunately, pesticides are a part of big dollar values. They come from the petroleum companies. They come from the big guys at the top that just want to try and poison you. So, you might think you're eating well if you're just doing the local foods, but, if they're covered in pesticides, there's no point. You're just defeating the purpose. Mm. Now, I know because I worked on a moshav in Israel, and it was quite surprising that, in the middle of the desert, I was situated in Hatzava, just below Beersheba. I was growing tomatoes out of sand, and there's no nutrient in sand. We were growing eggplants and watermelon and all these vegetables and fruit. And I was like, how is this even possible? Back up at the top of the farm was the water pump, the irrigation. And I managed to go up there one day, and the boys were putting red color pellets in the water to make the tomatoes red. And I was like, oh my goodness. So these tomatoes have any nutrient value whatsoever, or they're just being pumped all through the water system. So I'd be quite surprised to know what they're putting in the water system. Okay, yes, they're putting color pellets to make the tomatoes look red and lovely. So they're obviously going to have to put some form of nutrient into the water, but what are those nutrients? Are they healthy for us? Are they good for us? And it's quite fascinating that all this food in Israel is grown through sand, where you've got something that's organic that's grown through soil and rich soil that turns all those minerals into organic. And that's the key also Andrew was teaching about, because plants are the only things that can turn inorganic into organic. And everything in your soil is inorganic. But when your plant draws that in, it turns it into organic. And our body can only process organic substances. There's no need for the inorganic. Can't do anything with it. And I think Andrew's put things into a new perspective, especially with the distilled water aspect of we're now asking organic, inorganic. All the vitamin shops that are out there, what is the point of taking vitamins if they're all inorganic? They're not going to do anything for you. are they organic? You walk into a shop, they won't be able to tell you. They have no idea. It's like, well, you know, I'd rather not take a tablet that was made in a factory that's told me it's a, you know, nutrient supplement when I can have an organic vegetable juice or something like that and get all those nutrients naturally, which is kinder to the body. You know, it's the process of supporting foods that are more holistic and buying foods that are more seasonal as well. We tend to not eat correctly because we're not eating locally, and that means buying the food that's grown in the local areas as well, because that has an amazing effect as well. And buying seasonal. These days, food is so imported that, you know, you go to the local supermarket and some of those beans might be grown in Africa, frozen and shipped over to somewhere else in the world. You know, and it's not coming from the land where you grew up in. So you need to kind of work out what's right for your body and eat organic, eat seasonally and holistically. You know, it's about being true to your own body but not being, you know, you don't freak out about it too much. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think that if you eat inorganic mineral, maybe the body will somehow turn it into organic mineral, like the plants do that and the vegetables. But the thing is, you're in this process killing your body, because it's not natural to the body to always do that. It's like I know there's some lands in Israel, they in the north of Israel, not in the south where the desert is, the soil is really, really good, and even there they give this kind of not really good water. I don't know what's the name in English, but it's kind of dirty water, and the vegetables and the fruits from the trees kind of comes okay. They're really good, but the trees are dying because they are giving them like really dirty water. So it's kind of the same thing with the body.
Absolutely, but our bodies can't actually assimilate inorganic to organic. It just can't do it. It just doesn't do it. So what it does is it just stores it, you know, and that's caused arthritis or cataracts or heart blockages and all that sort of aspect. Whereas plants are the only things that can turn inorganic to organic. You know, they're the only creatures that are here in the world for us and we've got to eat them. So, you know, that was written in a book by Dr. Alan Bannock. It's a really good book called The Choice is Clear, which explains all about the inorganic, organic aspect of things as well, which, you know, Andrew Norton Weather goes on quite a lot about, which, you know, he's studied a lot about it as well. And I was very happy that Andrew gave me his little book as well, because I've read up about that as well. So it's amazing how much information is out there and how much you personally learn and how much you gain. You know, you can read a few books, but I think with doing the film, I've got to meet people and speak to people person to person and actually learn so much more from that. Which I probably would have never had that opportunity to do, because, you know, face to face I'm very tactile in that sense. I'm all about communication, and I'm so thirsty for knowledge, and it is all about sharing that information. Like, you know, the thing you were telling me about the UCDs, you know, and there's little things that I may never know and that you may know, and we can share these knowledges collectively. And I guess, you know, the World Conference is that aspect, because when you have a break, you get to meet all the other people sitting there and you can hear their stories, and, you know, you can find out more information. And I think that's why the film has taken me so long, because every time I turn a corner, I find something new, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I never knew about this, you know. Oh, you know, and this film is going to go on for hours, you know.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to edit, you know, thousands of hours of footage down to, you know, hopefully an hour and 20-minute film, because there is just a wealth of information out there. And, you know, I want to make it interesting for everybody as well, because like most documentaries, sometimes you just tune out halfway through, or, you know, for ourselves, watching a film on urine therapy is quite okay because we're all doing it, we understand it. But from someone who doesn't do urine therapy, it's quite confronting. You know, so I've got to be very delicate about how I edit such a film, because I don't want people running out of the cinema going, oh my gosh, you know, that person just drank their urine, that's disgusting. You know, so it's got to be done in a way that can be entertaining and light-hearted, as well as teary moments for everybody as well. You know, the way I see it is, once I get the film done, I'll probably be doing, you know, speaking around the world as well, and, you know, hopefully get the word out there more about it to people as well. It's funny, it's changed my life in the sense that I thought I was just going to make a simple film and be done with it. But now I think I'm stuck. I'm going to be stuck with this for forever.
I hope you will get to talk in TED Talks, and that will be really awesome.
and that's changed now, because I used to do TV shows here in Australia, and, you know, I host I used to just do red carpet celebrity stuff, and now my concept of thinking is I want to do documentaries on health. You know, I want to do one on, the fake sugars, and I want to, and I've got all the other movies in my head now, and it's like, well, goodbye red carpet, goodbye celebrities. You know, I've grown as a person so much that we can't afford just to sit anymore. We can't afford to just be naive about the way the world's going. We have to, all start standing up as a collective and move this planet into a different place, a place that's going to be good for everybody, that, where we can all share this collective knowledge and heal ourselves naturally. And the power alone is phenomenal. Could you imagine if we took control of our health, that we didn't need to go to doctors or hospitals? The smaller things, we could cure that ourselves. We don't even need to go to hospitals and doctors. Yeah, if you break a leg or an arm or you're in a car accident or something like that, yes, you need them because you need that sort of thing. By doing that, most wouldn't be so bankrupt, because at the moment, Australia, America, Canada, France, they're all burdened by the hospital system at the moment. It's collapsing. It's not working. We think it's working, but it's proven that it isn't, because the governments now have to outsource, agencies to go, you need private health insurance. So we'll spend some fear into everybody, because you'll never get into hospital if you don't have private health insurance. So they set up little agencies, and what are we doing? We're pouring thousands of dollars a year into private health insurance, and you're still not getting anything. The system is still collapsing. Hospitals are costing more and more every year. Doctors are getting paid more and more every year. And it's an industry of sickness. And it's so sick that the industry itself is sick, but they can't see it. We spend so much money doing fundraisers for cancer, for instance, separate of hospitals that already make a fortune from cancer. You've got all these separate charities doing fundraising for cancers, yet we haven't found a cure for cancer. We've still got huge amount of people dying of cancer every year, and it hasn't gone any less. So pouring all this extra money in is not doing anything. The only thing it's doing is they get to spend all this money, and half of it doesn't get spent on, it goes to other ways, not to actually buying equipment, but the industry itself is told to buy the latest machine so they can detect the illness faster. To me, that's an evil thing, because it's like, that is exactly what they're saying by illness. They want to try and find the illness beforehand. They disguise it with, we're doing you a favor by discovering it earlier. But really what they're doing is they're trying to get you in there quicker to take more medications faster. And it's not really a good way of doing things, because they're masking it. There's people now that are getting their breasts chopped off before they've got the cancer happening because they've found that there might be a genetic link with their family that they will get cancer in the future. So it's best to cut your breasts off now in prevention in the future. I mean, that's just looking at, oh my God, you might stub your toe. We better cut your leg off now. You know, just, it's getting medical madness. And it's hopefully we can look back and go, gosh, we were so barbaric with the way we did things, you know. But the only way that can change is if we change within ourselves. So that's us, ourselves taking control of our own health and putting that back into our own hands and not having to rely on them telling us we need them. We need your private health insurance. We need your protection. It's all fear-based. So we need to flip that around. We really need to empower ourselves. It's quite, and studies have proven this. When doctors went on strike, the mortality rate went up. So what that was saying is when they went on strike, more people were living instead of dying. Because most people die in hospital from accidental or overdosing or medical mistakes, you know, and it's like, get rid of them. You know, this proves the point that, you know, this aspect needs to be changed because we are now in the next, you know, it's the age of Aquarius. We're moving into another light. The more people drinking urine are getting more light within themselves. I tell more people about urine therapy. I don't have any adverse reactions from people. I've had no negative aspects so far, which is quite fascinating because I was waiting for people to go, that's disgusting. But I'm getting people going, oh, I want to know more. Tell me more. You know, it was just recently that when I went to South Africa for Christmas and I was, you know, reading my book about medical mafia and so forth, and the flight started talking, and I was telling her about the film that I'm doing in the World Conference and everything, and she was very intrigued about urine therapy. Anyway, she couldn't wait to keep coming up to me and asking me about it. And I said, look, I'll send you all the books I've got. You know, I've got some on internet and so forth. Anyway, I sent her the books. 2 days after getting off the plane, she emailed me and said, guess what I'm doing? I'm starting to drink now. You know, it's just amazing how people are just warming to the idea. And maybe that's me and my personality because I can be a little bit infectious when I talk about things and people, I kind of put them into a hypnotic state. During the film, I wanted to find people that had a negative aspect because I wanted both sides in the film. You know, I wanted people that were going, oh, that's wrong. But so far, I've just found everybody being so positive. So the whole concept of the film has taken its own journey on itself. I just have to follow the way it goes rather than try and upset the balance because it's, you know, anyone who's negative usually writes on my YouTube page and, you know, calls me things and says things. But when I say, oh, I love what, you know, because I'm open to everybody and everybody has a right to opinion. And I don't judge anybody for their opinions because we're all right to our own understanding. But it's funny when they start writing all these negative things and I let them go with it and I let them roll with it and I try and educate and they go, oh, you're wrong. And then I turn around and I type in, I love your opinion. Would you like to be in the film? Because I really need someone with your insight because I want that opposite. I never hear from them again. They just run. So it's quite interesting that, you know, where are these people that are so against it? There's a guy in Melbourne here, the urine therapist. We call them pissologists. He was ambushed on a TV show called Taboo. It's a series on National Geographic, and it's all about taboo subjects and things. And of course, they did one on urine therapy, and he was the one that was being interviewed. And so what they did, they set him up with a doctor, and, you know, they were basically asking him all about urine therapy, and he was answering all the questions, and then they filmed the doctor, and the doctor was supposed to contradict everything he said. But it was really funny, the doctor couldn't. And the doctor basically said, well, actually, everything he says is correct, but I would never drink my own urine. And that's only how it ended. And, you know, here's a doctor that they were trying to get to say, you know, oh, it causes all this and it's it's not going to help. Here is, Richard Iredale talking about urine therapy, and he's very good at talking, and he knows his stuff. The doctors couldn't even say, well, actually what he's saying is true. It is antiseptic, it is bacterial. And yes, it doesn't cause you any harm and all this. So it's quite funny that, but, he had to have the tagline, I would still never drink,
Is it online, or is there a way to see the show online?
Try to get a copy of it because he's got it on DVD, but unfortunately, I can't put it on YouTube because of copyright.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be slapped or lose my page on YouTube, and YouTube is really quite stupid sometimes because they block things for no reason. Some of the things I've put music on, of course, I haven't owned the rights to the music, so therefore I've had to. That's one of my biggest problems with making the film at the moment, is trying to find music that works with the film that I can use, royalty free, because I don't have the finances to pay for, a 30-second track that can cost me $5,000 because it's owned by somebody. So, I'm trying to find people who are musicians or freelance musicians who can give me music. And I've been pretty lucky with one guy in America who's a pianist. He's written some beautiful pieces that can make you cry. So that works when you're hearing somebody's story about their diseases. But still short music, and that's also a bit of a problem because it might stop the film getting out where I need it faster, because I need someone who can write me some wonderful tracks that I can put on the film. Because, the idea of the film is not to make money. I'm not in it for the money. It's not about making money from the film. If it was, I wouldn't spend, I've spent about $70,000 so far on the film. It's just about showing people there's another way. Here's a way you can try and heal yourself. Think outside the square. Experiment. And I just get the word out there. And I just want to spread it out there. And, if money comes my way, bring it on. I'll use it for my next film. That's fantastic. But that's not what drives me as a person. Never has. I enjoy just the craft of making something, and especially when you believe in something so much and there's so much passion in there, it just amplifies it in so many ways, And if I can change one person's life and cure cancer or cure their illness from watching the film, then my job is done. And, I live in a block of flats where there's about 23 units. One of the guys that used to live downstairs had bowel cancer. He bet it for 5 years. And then just probably a year and a half ago, fortunately, he didn't know about urine therapy. I didn't know about urine therapy. So he went back to get complete, chemotherapy done, and they gave him so much because they thought he was strong enough to handle it. Watch this guy that was, a fantastic, fun guy. He was so big. He was like a bodybuilder. Go from that to completely skin and bones, and then eventually die. And it was just heartbreaking to watch. And I'm like, this is just barbaric,
Yeah.
Kill the body. It's just, and they're getting away. Yes, it has cured some people, but let's try the alternative first. Let's try the other methods first. It's, what they classify as success is anyone that has radiation or chemotherapy and has lived 5 years is a success. And if they die after that, it's not counted. And that's really ridiculous. It's kind of like, so you're manipulating it. You're saying, oh, the chemo worked. Look at him, he's cured, but then he died. It's kind of like, well, that doesn't matter. We helped him. We gave him 5 years. But, a real test should be done on the people that aren't doing chemo, that are surviving cancer and curing themselves of cancer. naturally, either whether it be through distilled water or urine therapy, these are the real people we should be understanding and why and how. And, like the video that you saw on YouTube, which is that the Mexican woman that had cancer, she went to the doctors and told them what she was doing because they were so fascinated by it. They thought they made a mistake because they sent her back to the hospital to do more tests because they couldn't find the cancer. So they said, oh my God, we made a mistake. We must have mixed up the photos. So please come back. And they tested her roughly about 7 times. They said, what did you do? Because you were dying from cancer. We'd written you off. And she said, well, I started drinking my own urine. You know what they did? They kicked her out of the hospital. They sent her on her way. Said, get out of here. Get out now. And that's the mentality of what this is becoming, unfortunately. So, it's kind of interesting what I've got myself into because, something so innocently now has become so passionate. And, I just hope that all of us can spread that word, including yourself, and you're doing that by having this interview and you've interviewed others on the subject, and let's keep the candle burning for everybody else out there. And, we hope that, we can all join as humans and be kind to each other as human beings, and help each other. And that's.
Yeah, and Stephen, I just want to tell you that I'm also a musician, and if you want my help with that, I will be glad to help you. And doing this movie, and I feel that everything you do is really, really amazing, and the world really need it. And I will be happy to help you. I'm also a pianist and doing music of my own, and I would love to help you with that.
Which is always good. So, yeah, definitely would need that, which is great. And you know what, it means more coming from somebody who's actually doing the therapy. If I can get everybody in the film who assists my producer and things like that are all doing urine therapy, it just makes this film more powerful.
Yeah, sure. Before we finish, I think there is one thing that we left out. How do people get over the conditioning of urine being a waste product?
That's a good question.
How do they start?
Well, it's funny because like the woman I met on the plane, she was a hypnotherapist, and she was saying, why don't I hypnotize people to get over that aspect of drinking? And I said, well, you know what, it's really funny because the people that I find that I've met, usually with urine therapy, it's first choice, last resort, which means they've tried everything else has failed, and they've heard about urine therapy, and they've just done it. They've just down the hatch straight away. And I said to them, did you have trouble with it? No, not at all. I said, really? Just straight away like that? Yeah. And then I ask other people that obviously don't have any illnesses and just think about drinking urine is just like so grossed out. But there's so many good books out there that when you read one of those books, that's it. It changes you. Once you get to understand that urine therapy is a natural thing. Animals do it. There's no problem. I would always recommend just first put a few drops under your tongue because you really won't taste it. And a friend of mine just recently has got really bad eczema and he knows I'm doing a film and came up and said, I really think I need to do urine therapy, but I just don't want to drink. And I said, well, unfortunately for what you need, I think you do need to drink. But here's the deal. First of all, clean up your diet. If you've got an unhealthy diet, clean it up. So therefore your urine becomes more cleaner. Second of all, drink a lot of liquids, whether you're doing distilled water or water in general. It becomes a lot cleaner and whiter and and you don't taste it. And then start drinking at the end of the day or middle of the day. Because what happens is you don't actually taste anything. It's at its weakest point. It still has a bit of power in there to do what it needs to do, but it just gets you accustomed to drinking. And it gets you used to the idea that it's really not that bad. It doesn't taste bad. It tastes salty. Some days can be worse than others. And then slowly increase by drinking in the morning. And that's usually midstream. And the reason they say midstream is because when you urinate first, it just helps clean out the crystals that may be in the path on its way. The Indian culture believe just drink it all. Effects prove that both are okay. There hasn't been any evidence to show one is better than the other, but I prefer to do midstream anyway, just because, yes, I want to clean out the tubes before they go. And then just start off with small amounts. Do a shot glass and then slowly increase and listen to your body. And some people can do a whole, liter. Some people can only do a small glass. It's just what you're comfortable with. I have days where I wake up in the morning and I just can't drink it. Then my body's just go, nah, this is not going to happen today. And I just listen to my body and say, okay, today's not a day. And that could be because I'm eating wrong foods or whatever. But yeah, it's all those aspects.
Well, that's great info. And also, I wanted to ask, I'm translating Dr. Benek, The Choice is Clear, to Hebrew. And I wanted to ask if it would be possible to translate in the future the movie you're making. That will be awesome for me to do.
Well, I've only just started writing, so I'm pages in. I went to a conference in America which is called Train the Trainer, and it gives you these skill sets to write and blog and everything. So I'm listening to all those tapes, but I'm lucky. I've got a friend who lives 2 doors down. She's a writer. She's proofreading for me, but absolutely more than happy enough to give it to you to convert it into Hebrew by all means.
Cool.
And most urine therapy books, they're just facts and testimonials, which can become a bit boring after a while, I must say. But I'm trying to write it in a documentary style where it's a journey, and it'll give you all the key information as well as a part of the journey along the way. So hopefully, if I can get the book finished and the film finished together, it'll be with some of your music, hopefully.
That's amazing. Although you were cut off in the end, what you're saying is that you'll be happy to be assisted by Liav's music and my translation. It will be great to have it in Hebrew, like maybe one of the first translations to a different language other than English.
Yeah, that will be amazing.
Yes, I'll be happy to do it.
Well, I hope I know it's hard for you guys to attend the World Conference and everything, but there's still, you got till November, so save up.
Yeah. Wow, Stephen, I can't tell you enough how privileged and so happy and amazed and wow, this interview is like is so amazing. I hope people will just enjoy and be, as you said, mesmerized by your energy and what you put out there and everything you do on your journey and your personal testimony and others. Well, just amazing.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, both of you. It's a real pleasure, and I'm so glad that you both are doing it, and in such a country too, which is one of my favorite places to always visit. I totally love Israel. Like I said, I've spent 6 months there at one point. I didn't want to leave, so bring it on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Wow. Okay, Liav. So, how people can reach you, Stephen? Like, maybe a website and any info that people can maybe see your videos, your YouTube channel and everything?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find, apparently. On YouTube, my page is called GOT Productions. That's GOT Productions, all one, and that comes up with all the videos. I'm on Facebook. I'm in a lot of blogs as well. There's YouTube blogs on urine therapy groups as well. Also, if you wanted, you can all email me as well, which is gotproductions@iinet.net.au, and that's IINET.net.au. So gotproductions@iinet.com. Yeah.
Great.
So,
Great. Well, this is the end of the radio show, and I hope all of our listeners enjoyed it and kind of let it all sink in. It's a lot of info, and start to consider taking their own health kind of to the next level of consciousness. And Liav, you want to sum up something?
It was really good talking to you, Stephen, and I really hope that people who listen to it will take it as a benefit to their life and make themselves heal and feel good.
Yes.
Okay, bye, and see you in the next radio show.
Bye bye.